Hello, I'm Andrew McInerney, Artistic Director of the Studio de Musique Ancienne de Montréal, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce these pre-concert presentations for our special 45th anniversary season.
Hi, my name is Marie-Christine Trottier. I am a musician. I am host at Radio-Canada Ici Musique, and I have the great pleasure to be the chairwoman of the Studio de Musique Ancienne de Montréal. What a pleasure to be now with Peter Schubert, a well-known expert in choral music. Peter Schubert conducts choirs. He notably founded and directed the Viva Voce Chamber Choir. He's also an eminent teacher of music theory at McGill University. He has published 2 works on counterpoint and numerous articles on Renaissance music. He has given conferences and workshops all over the planet. Peter Schubert, welcome to this conversation about polyphony.
Thank you, Marie-Christine.
I would like you explain to us how the sacred texts are well served by human voices.
Okay.
In the big history of music.
Right. Okay. So the purpose of musical composition was, to a large extent, the setting of liturgical texts. So these liturgical texts were specified by the church, and they had to be sounded on certain occasions, like every week you had to sing certain texts, and at different occasions during the year, the feasts, you had to speak or sing certain texts. And so the music that developed around this, because the church could afford it, was incredibly elaborate, so as to ornament these things. Like just as a painting is an illustration of events in the life of Christ, and it has to be a beautiful painting, so the texts had to be expressed in a beautiful way in the music. So that's what the aim of the composer was. And the thing that developed in the 16th century that was so interesting was the idea that all the melodies in a piece, that all the melodies that were sounding together could be interesting, important melodies, and at the same time that all the sonorities that came to sort of what we call chords, vertical sonorities, would also be very beautiful. And so this music is actually very special in that respect, I think. And that's something that makes it very important, especially if you're studying counterpoint.
Yeah.
This is the real adventure is how can you write a piece where all the melodies are interesting.
So in polyphony, in counterpoint, each voice has its own life inside the whole.
Yes, that's exactly right.
But it's hard to write for
It's very hard to write.
a few voices in the same time.
I have to tell you an interesting thing, which is that in the Renaissance, we've discovered recently that most of the music sung in church was improvised. So the stuff that we have, Victoria, Lassus, etc., all that music is really a small fraction, and it's really good stuff. But in fact, the composers were trained as choir boys and could improvise stuff sort of like it. And then they came to sit down and write a piece, and they had so much music in their heads that they could really do these independent voices.
Do we talk about an apogee at this time?
Absolutely. It's the apogee of this kind of music, because then after the Renaissance, the music changes. We become more interested in chords. We become more interested in instruments, and things change. We become more interested in the solo voice, so that changes a lot. But for the kind of richness of melodic ideas, I think the Renaissance can't be beat.
Yeah. So now it could be interesting to hear a few excerpts of that kind of music.
Yeah, good. So one of the pieces that will be sung on the 29th is a setting of a part of the Song of Songs called the Song of Solomon. And this is a poem which appears to celebrate sexual love, but it's been interpreted as an allegory of the relationship of God and his people. And in the Christian church, it's used to celebrate feasts of Mary, because there's a lot of stuff about beautiful women in it. And so she's the ultimate beautiful woman. And the text that is going to be sung in this motet is Vidi speciosam sicut columbam ascendentem de super rivos aquarum. So I'm sorry to talk Latin, but I'll say it in English. I beheld a lady, beautiful as a dove, rising above the waters. And in this setting by Tomás Luis de Victoria, you'll hear first the women sing Vidi speciosam, I beheld a lady. And then the men sing the same thing. And when the women finish their phrase, they do a little softening. They sing a little softer. They do a little diminuendo. And that's a decision that the singers and the conductor make to show that the phrase is ending. And as the women end, the men enter and they sing exactly the same thing, an octave lower. And then they also do a little diminuendo.
So we can hear the differences between men and
That's
women.
it. You have the contrast, because the Renaissance ideal of variety is don't ever repeat anything the same way. So then after the men are finished, they sing rising above the waters. And the word rising is expressed by ascending scales. And now everybody participates in the ascending scales. So let's listen to that.
Wonderful. It's from Victoria. Un motet à 6 voix, 6 voices.
6 voices, that's right.
It's so plenty.
Yes. Well, that makes a certain richness of the sound that we like a lot. So another motet, this is for 12 voices by Lassus, is a Laudate Dominum. It means praise the Lord. And it says, praise the Lord, all ye nations. Praise the Lord, all you people. And this motet starts out very differently from the Victoria. And it starts out with everybody chiming in and rushing in and singing like a crowd of people. Praise the Lord, all you people. So what's being expressed is the allness of the people.
Yeah, it's a universal message.
Yeah.
So we've heard from Roland Lassus motet Laudate Dominum, Omnes Gentes at 12 voices. Magnifique.
So I think this music is actually very challenging for the listener, because you don't just have one melody in the sopranos that you pay attention to, and then the rest is all accompaniment. Mm-hmm. Right. You have 4, or in this case, these cases, you just heard music for 12 and for 6 voices. So when you listen to it, you have to let your ear wander around among the parts. And actually, it's fun to go to the concert because you actually can see who's singing. So you say, oh, look, those people have stopped singing. I better look over here. What are those guys doing? Okay, it's the tenors. and then you can listen, pay attention to them, and then suddenly the sopranos will come in again. And so it's a much more complicated and rich experience. And you can also follow in the text and see if there's word painting going on where the ascendentem is rising, and so you hear rising scales. There's so much to listen to that it's really, I think you should hear the concert twice, actually.
Peter Schubert, thank you so much for your inspiring advices.
Okay, well, thank you. It's a pleasure.